How did the panel go?
It was pretty good. I'm happy. I'm going live on my end. Basically, I was happy to be back on the hippy dippy. Twitch.tv obviously was on fire, the past week, which is just really disappointing because like almost everybody I knew, almost everybody I know and like is involved in the drama in some way. So it just kind of sucked because I was like, I like Dylan, I like Prime, I like Cat, I like Destiny most of the time. so it just kind of sucked. Seeing people that you really like, that you want to work with, kind of ripping each other to shreds. It kind of sucked. So not gonna lie.
Yep. Yeah. So I came up in all those panels as well. So yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch, but hopefully, I think I think good will come out of it, and I think that we'll have like a better understanding of what it is that we should be doing from here forward, and like clear things up as far as like business relationships or like professional relationships versus friendly relationships, and like how to like clear this up from the beginning.
Yeah, and that's that's an important lesson, right? Just learning that basically Twitch ultimately, even though it is a casual space, is also a professional space. You don't know who's doing what, when, where, why. So you kind of gotta, you gotta pick your battles, pick your relationships, act tactfully. And basically treat it as if you were going to, like, I don't want to say like a corporate job. Obviously, like we cuss a lot and we do a lot of crazy stuff, but basically do treat it like a job if you want to make it a career.
Oh, I guess I should pull up mine. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it is like I always treated. I ran panels for a long time on Twitch as well, and I treated it all very professionally, and like the people that I worked with, and like Kay was my co-host for a long time. Like, yeah, I tried to make sure that everything was like cut and dry, like very simple and professional.
Try to send your pictures of your wiener to as few people as possible,
Yep. Well, I did you met one of my heroes tonight. I somewhat of an obsession, I'll say, is Fawn. Yeah, she was on the panel with you tonight.
Yeah, she was good peeps. Smart, fun, passive enough in order to like not be in everybody's shit all the time, but aggressive enough to get in there and throw elbows in fun ways. Yeah, that was great. It's unfortunate. Not everybody has that kind of skill. So she was saying like, oh, I want more femme people on the panel or whatever. I think one of the problems is femme people not feeling comfortable throwing elbows, and then them not feeling comfortable being criticized afterwards for throwing elbows.
I do think that it's a harder thing to do for women though. Like when it optically it comes off differently. And I was having a conversation with other people last week about this, where I don't know another woman who can go hard in a debate and like yell at somebody and like cuss them out and throw ad homs and still come out looking good, except for Lauren Southern, dude. She has some freaking skills when it comes to rhetoric. Nobody else can do that except for her.
Yeah, I mean, you basically you have to have thick skin while being willing to throw jabs too, and like you have to throw jabs in a way that's fun for the audience and fun for everybody there. That's obviously like an acquired skill, So it takes time. So yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's like none of this shit is built in a day, right? Like you gotta learn to interact with your friends in high school and college. You do have to work out your own cringe shit. You have to read books. You have to figure out where you're at philosophically, and then maybe you have something to say that people will want to listen to. Obviously, a lot of people start in this game pretty young, though, which I think is tough.
Yeah, she's definitely got skills. Although I will say Eris is like really impressing me especially in the way that she tackled all of the Prime stuff recently. I say this to people that are around me a lot, where like drama starts to blow up somewhere in the Twitch politosphere, and everybody's screaming and yelling at each other, and friendships are breaking up, and lines are drawn. And every time I feel like I'm just stuck in the middle because I'm still cool with everybody. And I feel like I'm still making all the same criticisms and I'm still calling everybody out, but I don't end up having a huge falling out with anybody. And so I mention this to people all the time where I say, like, look, somehow I'm still saying all the same things you are, but I'm saying it in a way to where I'm able to maintain relationships with these people and hopefully actually be convincing and get somewhere with them instead of just drawing battle lines and saying, well, I'm on this team or I'm on this team. And you guys are not doing that. You're just choosing a side and then posting on Twitter 100 times a day. And then I think, like, okay, like, I guess I'm doing something at a level above everybody else to where, like, it's just it's something that I'll have to, like, work harder on, like, teaching other people. But then I get shellacked all over the internet for my takes on, like, the Prime Katarina situation. And then I go into Eris's chat where she's got thousands of people there listening to her say the same things as me, but going a whole lot harder. And everybody's Yaz Queen the whole entire stream. I don't know. Like, she's got some freaking talent, dude. She is killing it.
Yeah, I like Eris a lot. She is a sincere talent. I actually really like her interviews a lot. I think she's, like, really incisive. She knows how to she doesn't just know how to ask, like, write down a bunch of good questions that people want to hear. She's good with the follow-up too, where it's like, oh, you said that and I think that's really interesting. Let me follow up. And so I think that's a real talent. It takes intelligence, emotional intelligence, all that kind of stuff, and she's really good at it. I think that if she continues doing work consistently or whatever, she has the ability to be as big as she wants to be. And then I was trying to think of what else you said. One of the most important things that you just said was kind of like, I identify as, like, centrist center right, and one of my main, like, philosophical people that I follow the most is Jordan Peterson. And one of the things that he says that, like, a lot of lefties scoff at, but I think is incredibly important, is don't fight the battle just to win the one battle. Fight the battle so you can be, like, in battle just being, like, games or whatever. Play the game so you're invited to the most amount of games so you can win the most amount of games. And that's the thing. Like, I'll go hard on people or whatever, but the door is always open for us to have a good relationship. And in that way, I can make sure that I still have the ability to continue to play and have those games. And a lot of people are so rude and so shitty and so divisive and so rhetorically, like, acidic and nasty that you just never want to interact with them again. So it's a brief pop of notoriety because it's entertaining to watch somebody who's aggressive and gross, but then that ultimately burns out because they don't know how to maintain relationships.
Well, I'll say I have trouble, like, figuring out where to draw lines. I'm coming into, like, normally I don't associate with leftists as much as I have been in the last 6 months, and I have for a long time, as long as I've been making any sort of content, whether it was podcasts or streams or just YouTubing and just putting out video essays, like, I have always gained a farther right audience that I allow into my community because I feel like somebody's got to allow them in somewhere for them to assimilate. Like, if everybody just kicks them out all the time, there is no chance for them. They're never going to be able to learn or grow and I did. Like, I was the far right guy at one point, and I was able to learn from other people because I was able to join other communities and learn from them. And so I want to be that for other people, but I still draw those lines, and I struggle to figure out where to draw those lines because the leftists have completely different lines than me, and they feel like any sort of association with these people whatsoever is like a horrible crime. And so I'm like, this is something that I'm really struggling trying to learn is staying in the middle actually always really, does it always actually have utility to it?
Yeah, I don't know. And the reason why is because I'm in a very, very similar position to you, actually. So I know. So, for instance, I was talking about we were talking about like gender and like non-binary folks and using transgender pronouns in schools or whatever. I already know by saying that, like, if you're not religious, using he, him, she, her, they, them, or whatever, I already know I'm losing like half the fucking like more hard right people who I'm talking to. But I'm not religious. I believe in God. I might be like a deist or something like that. But I'm not like specifically dogmatically religious. So I don't have this like God says man, woman, gay, like gay's bad. Like I don't have that in my head. So then I try to just like analyze information as it's presented to me and then go with what I think is rational or what's best. And I articulate that regardless of whether or not people like it or not. The problem that I have is it's really tempting when you're in the center and you're taking shit from the left and taking shit from the right and taking shit from your own base and taking shit from the people who like you. It's really hard to not just be like, I'm just gonna say whatever the fuck you want me to say. Like it is so hard to not find like a faction that already exists and just beat the drum. But I feel like that's why Twitch is so fucking toxic in the first place, is because there's people who just found a drum to fucking beat and they just beat that drum every goddamn day.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I got used to now ending my streams and then going and finding the VC that is having a watch party of my chat and then jumping in there so I can find out what I'm in trouble for today. And so this is literally what I'm used to now, is like, okay, like I said something wrong today, or I allowed somebody in my chat to say something that I should have banned them for, or
fuck them.
I brought somebody on I shouldn't have had on, or something. Like it's literally a daily thing, and I want to maintain relationships with all of these people, and I want to continue having influence in the farther right sorts of people, and I do consider myself right wing. I know that you last time we talked, you said you struggle with that label, or at least like you consider yourself left, but people call you right because you fight with the left. Like, but I consider myself right wing, and I consider myself conservative, and I am a Christian, but I feel like when new information comes in that wasn't available to them when they were writing the Bible, like we should probably take that into consideration sometimes. And I take different positions from the from other people who are just as dogmatic as I am, and so we fight on these things. And so like I do want to maintain those relationships and still have that influence and still be able to talk to these people, because I am not that far right person, but by labeling myself conservative and right wing and having shared values and shared interests with them, I feel like I'm the guy to do it. I feel like I'm the 100%. Guy to reach out to them if there ever was somebody,
Well, no, and that's so important, because like I actually so I was raised by parents who were liberal Republicans, but they were also very Christian. So what that means is they took their faith completely, devoutly, literally. Jesus is the Messiah. Like, we went to church every single Sunday, 0 to 18. And literally when I was in trouble, I had to like rewrite the book of Proverbs, like, start to finish. So that was one of my punishments when I was in high school. So I feel like I have a decent appreciation for like religious upbringing, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that I really appreciate about it. But ultimately, because they were liberal and they were from the Northeast, liberal politically, what they basically told me was education's crazy important. You can't ignore new information when it comes up. Using your intelligence to basically navigate the world is not a crime. And on top of that, it's something that should be encouraged. Even if people say that you're wrong, if you have a good read on the situation, you should feel comfortable planting your feet in the ground and having an argument. And they're Irish too. So, I mean, we just fucking love to argue anyways. So that's kind of like my thing, where I'm infinitely, like on a personal level, I am very much more sympathetic to a conservative life, to a libertarian life. And I think on an individualistic level, people should be conservative or libertarian in the way they conduct themselves, and they will have a better life than if you have a liberal, progressive, individualistic mindset. Where the liberals and progressives, I think, have a potential winning argument is that structure doesn't work for everybody, and you need some level of intercession to help out people who can't get by. And that's where I sympathize with like liberals and progressives and all that kind of stuff, is I think that's necessary. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'd leave it. So that's why like I claim centrist, center right, or whatever.
Well, so currently, we have Lauren Southern moving her way into Twitch politics, and I've been fighting with everybody on the internet over this idea. I just had Demon Mama and Eris on the other night, and we had long conversations about this, and it seems as though there's a small minority who is rationalizing this. You are like actually like at the forefront of this. Can you like explain what the idea behind this is, and is there like an actual plan, or is it more like we're just friends and we're just helping her out?
Yeah, that's actually really good questions. I don't think there's like an official plan. Like we didn't write down anything official, but at the same time, like I would say that we fight in private, we fight in public. I don't pull any punches with Lauren. And if anybody's interested, I actually debated Lauren on my channel, but because Lauren was still gone at the time and wasn't as big in the political sphere, I was fighting her about saying like, hey, listen, here's the parts of your ideology that don't work. Here's the parts of it where it hasn't come in contact with the better arguments from the left. Give discourse a chance. And basically, if we don't figure out how to talk to each other, we're going to fucking kill each other. And I mean that. Like, I literally mean if we don't figure out how to talk to each other, we're going to kill each other. You now have people, Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh, I think a few other people, are openly talking about demographic replacement, white replacement, mass immigration, all that kind of stuff on a public stage. Lauren Southern's talking points are in the mainstream, whether you like it or not. Trump's talking points are in the mainstream, whether you like it or not. So you have two options. Either you say this discourse is unacceptable, so we're not even going to have the conversation, and you just run away from it. Or you say, hey, we've come up with better arguments since 2016. I think you're only operating with half the picture of how the world works. Let me present to you how we have better information of like why Muslims aren't going to single-handedly destroy the Western world, why you shouldn't be as concerned with theocracy, why trans people are valid, why redistributive economics works in some ways. And I think that's the cool thing about where I'm at politically, is I get to be a buffet political figure. I get to pick things that I think work. I get to discard things that I don't think, or that I think don't work. And then I get to fight people. So I can fight Demon Mama or I can fight Lauren depending on the day. And that's awesome to me.
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoy that aspect of it as well. I mean, I haven't actually come into contact with Lauren whatsoever. So, you would know this better than I do. These are some of the points I've been fighting people on. So real quick, let me give a rapid fire real quick of some of the questions that I've been asking. If you can give me a yes or no. Did she tip over a boat full of immigrants?
No.
Did she shoot a flare at a bunch of immigrants and set them on fire?
No, she held an illumination flare in a dinghy boat trying to block a boat leaving the harbor.
Okay. Did she invent or start the Great Replacement?
No, the argument is that she popularized it and contributed to stochastic terrorism. Okay. That's the closest you can get to the left-wing narrative, is that she popularized Great Replacement and that it contributed to the stochastic, which basically means like not actually causing, but kind of like variably causing the Christchurch shooting. That's the closest to a strong argument you could have with that.
And then did she cause, if I remember this correctly, the Christchurch shooting?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, like, I don't want to say no, right? Because the thing about it is, if you look at the right-wing wave at that time, the concern was Iraq is collapsing, the Arab Spring has fallen apart, mass immigration from the Middle East and North Africa is coming into Europe and coming into America. These people have higher birth rates than us. They have a different religion than us. They want to impose theocracy. If you look at polling data, the theocracy stats are shocking and concerning. And then also they have a disproportionate support for suicide bombing, which is just terrorism. It's morally unacceptable in a Western context. It's one of the most abhorrent things you could do. And not only were these Pew Research polls and this immigration happening, but then on top of that, we had terrorist attacks. 2016, we had Pulse nightclub shooting in my home city. We had the Bataclan attacks. They literally, the attackers in Bataclan, I lived in Belgium for 4 years. They grew up in a neighborhood in which I used to shop, and they literally blew up like a street that I've been on. Boston, I was born in the Northeast. The Boston bombing happened with the Sarnea brothers, where they literally killed like a middle school kid. So what I was frustrated by, and what I think a lot of young men at the time were frustrated by, was the liberal and progressive and left-wing inability to admit that terrorism was a fucking problem, right? Like just shove your head in the sand. Don't worry about it. You know, everybody can come in. Doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. This, that, the other, right? So what I would say is Lauren was part of that negative reaction to the war on terrorism, and mass immigration. And she helped popularize some of the narratives around that time. But it wasn't just her who did it at that time. And on top of that, that groundswell of like political, retributive, violent sentiment towards Middle Eastern and North African immigrants, that was real, regardless of whether or not she talked about it. So that's where I don't want to say completely no, because I think she was a part of that political reaction, but I also don't want to say yes, because if you look at her body of work, it's not like, hey, listen, mass immigration is happening, demographic replacement is happening, so go ahead and start killing your neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from what I understand, the narrative is that her video on the Great Replacement actually incited him to commit this terrorist attack. But when I watched her reasoning behind why she didn't have as much to do with it as people would like to say, that he had actually, according to the FBI, had already decided 4 months prior to her even releasing that video that he was going to commit this attack, and that he had already started planning it and buying things for it and all of those things long before she had even released the video that apparently incited this action. And then I went and looked it up, and that all checks out. Like, yes. And as I said, I am interested in pulling people over and at least like having less bad outcomes, I guess. Like I want to.
Weird.
Yeah. Like I just feel like that's good. And when I talk to trans people, I don't want to like excuse any slight they feel from Lauren Southern or ask them to be okay with it. But when I say like her rhetoric on trans people versus like the mainstream rhetoric for Republican talking points against trans people, like hers seems to be a lot better, and this is a better world for trans people to live in, and this is a direction that Republicans should be moving in. My point is like, when I talk to them about her coming into this space, like I want to mitigate bad outcomes, and I want to allow people I want to give them a chance to move. Does that mean there shouldn't be any lines drawn? No, of course not. And so I want to know, like, I assume you share those values and like that those would be goals for you as well. But do you have lines drawn as well? Do you feel like there are points to where you would have to say, I could no longer associate myself with her at this point?
Oh, yeah, 100%. So I think like, yeah, so basically like my line actually would absolutely be like ethno-nationalism, 100%. Basically saying like, we can, you know, we're distinct races and we can only stay within our races and nobody's allowed in and nobody's allowed out and we can't interact culturally and all that. Like, fuck off. Like that is not my bag. But I don't think she's there. Just in private conversations, I want her to be able to explain her own ideology because it's not mine. I'm a civic nationalist, and I don't think she's all the way there. But at the same time, what I would say is, yeah, there's lines. But what I would say too is that my job is not to be, like judge, jury, executioner of people's like social lives. As a matter of fact, I'm like a really, compared to a lot of people, I'm a fairly small creator. I'm just about to break 10K right now. Like I'm not that big.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually really happy on YouTube specifically, and then we're launching the Twitch once we hit 10K on YouTube. But the point being that like, number one, it's not my job to act as judge, jury, and executioner. Number two, Lauren accumulated a very specific audience, and I'm just going to be honest about this in public. She accumulated a very specific audience, which is largely MAGA, right wing, far right, all that kind of stuff. The people that lefties and progressives talk shit about all fucking day. So I can go on to Twitch panel shows and I can debate with lefties all fucking day and yell at them and tell them that they're stupid and say like, there are more centrist right wingers than you believe. And on top of that, like I'm a right winger and I believe this, that, the other or whatever. And I can just be like the token reasonable right wing guy, right? Mm-hmm. I can do that. Alternatively, what I can do, or not even alternatively at the same time, what I can do is I can go back to the right wing and I can say, hey, listen, a narco-capitalist, deregulated capitalism actually has a lot of negative externalities. And while capitalism is infinitely better than fucking socialism, and mixed economy capitalism and some level regulation is important. Also, environmentalism. It's not negative. Teddy Roosevelt was an environmentalist. Richard Nixon started the EPA. Taking care, we're as Christians, like again, I'm a cultural Christian. I was raised Christian. We are not called by God to use the planet how we feel. We're not called to massacre all of the animals, pollute all the oceans, and destroy it. You're called to be stewards. Stewards means watching the kingdom while the king is away. So a steward maintains the kingdom. He doesn't destroy it. So environmentalism, like the Republican right has been sold a meme that in order to be manly, you have to drive a fucking diesel truck and fucking like shoot down fucking bald eagles out of the sky with like a fucking full automatic shotgun, right? That's not stewardship. That's not just or correct. So yeah, it's little shit like that. It's little shit like that I want to push back on boomer memes about what it means to be right wing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So when you did a debate recently with Lauren Southern as well, and that was what prompted me to invite you on here. I wish that I had sent you the reel of my reactions to this debate.
I almost watched you and Aiko.
But like that is the intro is just clips of me reacting to it. I
just need to watch the beginning.
Yeah.
I need to watch it then because like I can't watch the debate again. Like I can't watch the debate itself, but I can watch like what people are thinking about it. So yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, man, dude, I like that. That was I watched two debates in a row, like back to back. They were like the worst debates I had ever seen. I think one was like Destiny versus Mio, and then it was you and Lauren versus the Surfs and Tale of two
twin rabbits.
Rabbits. Tale of twin rabbits. Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, he's had a rough one after that. My favorite reaction actually is Destiny when you start to talk and he's like, Connor, no, shut up. And then you're like, damn it, Tail. He's like, okay, you're clear for takeoff.
Yeah. Dude, I need to get that fucking clip. I think it's on Destiny out of context on Twitter. I need to pin that somewhere, like on my fucking channel or some shit. And yeah, like that, I don't know, like I don't want to talk too much because I haven't even heard what you thought about it yet. But like, For me, it was like a brutal slog. I have had like way more productive debates. I've had way more interesting debates. But I think the reason we were actually talking about it on the Discord, because I have a couple of people that help manage the channel, I guess, right now.
Yeah, I know
And we were talking about
GKR, I believe, is one of them.
Yeah, GKR is one of the head mods. Taze is my editor, and then Silver is he basically does like consultation and like backwards and like consultation on structure and like all that kind of stuff. Cool. So we were talking about it, and we were just like, I don't even know if anybody's gonna fucking watch it because it was such a slog. And then because it was such a shit show, it actually ended up being incredibly popular for like a week. Like it was fucking insane. I think I got like 2,500 subs just off of that debate.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I do on here, and like especially behind the scenes from here, is I coach people on debating, and then when I'm not like when I don't have somebody specific that I'm helping, then we're just watching like whatever the top debates are and going over them. And it was like the most frustrating thing for me watching this was I didn't feel as though the people who were supposed to make the positive claim ever made the positive claim. I like it
Right.
it was like I don't know what the agreement was going into this or like how all of this ended up happening. There's been conflicting reports back and forth, but like my understanding was it was supposed to be Lance and Tail who had the positive claim of what happened, and then you guys were supposed to be attacking them on that claim. But instead, you guys would make claims, and then they would repeat your claim back to you in a horrible way, or would just say, "Oh yeah, that's what you think," like, and that's about
and then
it.
Repeat back what we said.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was I talked about this. So Mott and Bailey is typically like a rhetorical strategy for like, you know, there's the stronger point and the weaker point, right? I think Mott, actually somebody corrected me in the comments, Mott is the stronger fortified position and Bailey is actually like the weaker, less fortified position. So going into that debate, the debate was over indigenous issues because Lance very specifically had done a response to Lauren Southern's video where she talks about the church burnings. And Lauren's video actually, like for the first like 5 to 7 minutes or whatever, basically talks about just the history from an objective historical fact. Kids were abused. They were forcibly taken into these, residential school programs. Some of them died from disease and neglect and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, they're rediscovering the graves of these children, which is sparking arson. I think it's like 45 to 50 churches have been burned in the past like year to 2 years as a result of the discovery of these graves. And basically what's going on with that is like Lance did in his response video basically was like agreeing with all the descriptive shit that Lauren had done. And then towards the end of the video, when Lauren's like, and this is sparking church burnings that the media is not talking about in an aggressive way, the government is not talking about in an aggressive way, and there are people on Twitter who are just celebrating churches being burned to the ground, regardless of whether or not they were part of the residential school system. And that's where Lance, I think literally the video he has is called like, why won't somebody think of the Catholics or something like that? So basically, without really saying it, justifying the church burnings. So getting back to the Mott and Bailey, basically the Bailey is disputing what happened historically and fighting over historical details and all that kind of bullshit. The Mott is you don't fucking arson churches for shit that happened 100 years ago, right? Yep. That's like a pretty simple statement that almost everybody agrees with. Not everybody on Twitter, but most people agree with it. So what happened in that debate was we basically decided to concede the Bailey, right? Or at least like maybe we'd poke around in it because basically Tale of Twin Rabbits and Lance were so factually incorrect about so much of what they were describing. So we would play around with that and basically try to, correct the record. But then the Mott is you don't fucking do arson as a result of these issues. And unfortunate for everybody in that debate, Basically, we gave away the Bailey in that argument, and then they gave away the Mott. So it was really just like this like technical slog over fucking terms and bullshit, but their performance was so brutal that it ended up being an interesting watch for a lot of people anyways.
Yeah, I was, so the part that I was more curious about is, did you guys actually have like a position on who was doing this, or was the position more so like the rhetoric has been irresponsible when it comes to the graves, and therefore like it has led to irresponsible actions, and so we need to correct the rhetoric in order to hopefully avoid the actions from taking place?
100%. Yep. Okay. Basically that's what it was, because we're not saying whether or not bad shit happened. Bad shit happened. But if you're going to say that this was akin to like the Holocaust with the Jews in the 1940s or whatever, it's just not historically accurate. And if you're receiving the narrative from Lance or other people that this is basically akin to like the Nazi Holocaust, you have moral justification to Molotov cocktail churches. But if that's not the historical record, and it's more nuanced than that, and it's more fucked up than that, and it's more weird than that, you need that information, because oftentimes it doesn't seem like leftists, not I'm speaking very generally, but it does seem like a lot of leftists aren't so much interested in the facts of the matter or what's actually going on. They just want the rhetoric that reaffirms their position. I don't hold this just to lefties. Obviously, right-winger people do this shit too, but there's a lot of people on Twitch politics specifically and Twitter.com specifically who are just looking to have their biases confirmed. They're not actually looking to understand how the world works or what it was in the past.
So were there positions that you, well, actually, sorry, let me go back to, was there a group that you guys thought was most likely responsible for those things that you just never got to, or does it not matter?
Yeah, not really. It's probably leftists. Like literally, that's it. Like even a decent chunk of the indigenous folk in Canada themselves basically said, like, please, for the love of God, stop doing this. This is our churches, you fucking assholes. A lot of these churches are actually indigenous churches. So it's not even the indigenous community. It's probably a small subsect of the indigenous community and leftists like Black Bloc or Antifa or whatever, like the same people who would show up to a protest and like, you know, throw fucking cherry bombs at fucking right wingers or whatever. That's the same people that are Molotov cocktailing the churches, virtually guaranteed. And one of the things that was really frustrating about that debate was Lance and Tale of Twin Rabbits being like, I don't know who did it. It's like, we know who the fuck did it. We don't know their names. We don't know their addresses, but we pretty much know who the fuck did it.
Meaning like we know it's left-wing activists, not like we know it's Antifa, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from what I understand, again, like how this led up to it, like Lance, from what I understand, challenged Lauren to a debate because of her video through a third party. And she said, I don't want to do a 1v1. I want to do a 2v2. Is that correct?
Yes.
That to me is just freaking genius. Like, that was such a smart move. There was no way in hell even if it all turned out the same, there's no way she would have come out of that debate looking good. Like, it's still the bad, far right Nazi woman versus the good leftist, like it there optically there was just no winning in that. And so when I heard how all of this transpired and how you guys came to have a 2v2, I thought, like, wow, that is just freaking brilliant. Like, was that more of the thought process, or was it something different? Did you worm your way in there?
No, I wish we were that smart. Holy fuck. No, that wasn't what it was. Literally what it was Lauren was like, holy shit, watch this video. Lance is fucking, calling me out on this thing, but he's calling me out on something that I've never said. I watched the video. I basically concurred with her assessment. Lance and I, after the debate, we had a couple of DMs or whatever, and I basically told him, like, if I'm gonna talk shit in any way, or if I'm gonna criticize you in any way, it's something that I would say to your face. So I'm not pulling any. I'm not gonna be overly rude, but I'm also not gonna pull any punches either. Lance's Twitter is the only Twitter that I have like unfollowed. Like I follow fucking everybody. You can literally check my fucking follow logs. It's like 4,200 fucking people that are following, or that I'm following, and it's like 4,000 people that are following me. So I literally follow for follow. But Lance's fucking Twitter is so goddamn obnoxious and routinely incorrect about things that I was just like, I can't fucking follow this shit. So basically what happened was Lance triggers the fuck out of me with some of his takes. Lauren gets triggered as fuck by some of Lance's takes. So literally it was like, hey, let's do a 2v2 so neither one of us commits suicide on the day of. And like that was like the whole motivation. Like we didn't even have like an optics conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wish we were that fucking 10 head fucking genius, you know, optically minded, but we weren't.
Okay, that makes sense. So did she just come to you? You said she just came to you and just said, hey, like, you want to be part of this? Like, why does she include you in this instead of doing a 1v1?
Yeah, so Lauren about 2 years ago did her like centrist thing. Not that she's really centrist, but kind of like the thing where it's like, hey, I'm like more nuanced and more subtle, and I'm trying to consider more perspectives and all that kind of shit. Mm-hmm. I'm also doing a police documentary. I was leaving law enforcement at the time. I've always wanted to do stuff like this. And on top of that, since she was, you know, saying that she was more centristy and nuanced, basically somebody told me like, hey, she's doing the documentary, reach out, see if you can do it.
You're literally in the thumbnail. Right? Like I was scrolling over it. I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, I'm scrolling over it and you are the thumbnail on it. That's very cool.
Yeah. So I helped her out with the documentary Crossfire. I did the police interview, and then also like helped out with some other like, you know, technical and logistical consultation and all that kind of stuff. I do have my gripes about it. Basically what I would say is the law enforcement part of it is like really accurate. Like the first hour and 20 minutes I like a lot. The middle 45 minutes is basically like BLM is a bunch of assholes and Antifa are a bunch of assholes, which, while true, is not constructive and doesn't help us further the fucking dialogue for what's positive about BLM and what could actually be salvaged from that movement, or why fucking Antifa activists feel the way they do. So while it might be true, it still feels a little right-wingy circle jerky to me. And then like the last 20 minutes is about cops again, so I really like that part as well. But the point being is I consulted on it. We kind of developed like a friendly acquaintance from that. And then from that friendly acquaintance, that's kind of where we started interacting. I did a one-on-one debate with her on my channel, as I mentioned before, about discourse. And I think it's a really solid debate. I think I asked her questions that she wasn't fully ready for in a positive way.
Okay. And I guess, like, how did that lead to her, like, asking you, though? Like, instead of other people in general, like, how did you end up as the partner?
I think because I'm actually a centrist. Like, I'm actually a centrist, and I'm pretty charitable to the left wing as well as to the right wing, so I can often communicate. Whereas Lauren can still be reflexively, I would say this to her face as well, where she can be reflexively defensive and reflexively abrasive, and also use terms and words that she might not even know are abrasive to lefties or progressives. I'm kind of there as that like liberal progressive whisperer where I'm like, hey, that was kind of like a dickish thing to say. Let me see if I can like, you know, frame it better. And like, you know, let me build your argument so it's understandable from the left. Because they already fucking hate her guts anyways. So, you know,
yeah,
don't need to be a dick about it.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially when it comes to Lance's Twitter. I had never really seen it before, and then after the debate, I've had small interactions with him, especially when I first started out on Twitch. He was very like supportive and helpful.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
But a bunch of like mods in his chat after the debate, like he was talking about like, yeah, like I you know, maybe I made some mistakes and I'm always open to self-improvement. And then his chat starts saying, go to Tom Foolery, let him help you, like go let him coach you. If you're going to debate Lauren Southern again, go go hit up Tom Foolery and let him help you. And he's like, oh yeah, definitely. Like Tom Foolery, if you're listening, hit me up, like send me an email. And everybody's messaging me, get in his chat. So I start talking to him a little bit, hit him up, never answers me again. And then I start looking at like the stuff that he's tweeting out, and I'm just kind of like blown away by this stuff. But I like, the main thing that I want to talk to him about is the idea of like the difference that he didn't seem to concede to at any point between a mass grave and a grave that is mass.
Oh my God. So, all right. So I shouldn't be laughing, subject matter is really serious, all that kind of stuff. So, I'll try not to meme too hard, but so one of my favorite things to come out of the debate was like, I'm the crying soy jack. Like I'm the soy jack character that's like, a mass grave is normally a grave used for sanitation or war in order to bury a whole bunch of bodies that during a time of crisis, often used in criminal activity, etc. Like, and it's like this big fucking definition. And then it's the fucking Chad face and it's Tale of Twin Rabbits. And it's just like, mass means big. And I was like, God damn it. They got me. They made me the soy jack. And I love the meme. So no, but that was frustrating because like, I think anybody, if I was to walk up to somebody and I was to say, what's a mass grave? Almost every single person is going to answer something in a criminal, genocidal, war crime context. And the fact that they continually denied that was like definitionally appropriate was really frustrating to me. Like one of the key frustrations of the debate for sure.
Yeah, the part, if you watch like my reaction to the debate, like the part where I really just like my brain melts out of my ears is when Tale of Twin Rabbits says to you, and I can't believe you even had to look up the definition mid-debate. You would have thought you would have done that beforehand. And I'm just like, no! He did that for you, dude! He did that for you! The definition agreed with what he's already saying. He did that for you, bro! You're the one who needed to look up the definition mid-debate.
Dude, that was amazing. And like, in the way that I view like linguistics, right? I'm trying to communicate information to you, right? And I'm also trying to communicate information to the audience. If I fail in doing that, then there are more words that I can use to describe an idea more and more and more and more and more until you and I are on almost the same page contextually, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I get really bored of semantic debates where literally two people are using different definitions and then arguing past each other. It makes me want to like, I can't fucking handle that shit. So when I have two assholes arguing, like panel show doesn't matter. If they're arguing past each other, I'm like, this is my understanding of the word. What's your understanding of the word? What's your understanding of the word? Let's find some common definitional grounds and let's move the fuck on, because we should be arguing over fucking definitions. We should be arguing over the prescriptions that our descriptive reality imply. So like, if we can land on some level of like consensus on descriptive reality, or if we can fight about descriptive reality, once we reach some level of consensus, we should be able to come up with a prescription and then fight over prescriptions, which is a lot more interesting to me than having a fucking 2-hour debate about the definition of the word mass grave. Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, the memes that came out of that debate, brutal. Yes, they were great. I enjoyed all of them, but I guess the thing that bugged me afterwards though is the amount of people who went back and found clips of Destiny, of Lauren. Maybe they did the same thing to you, where you're talking about the situation months ago and you use the word mass grave. And they all found clips of Lauren using the word mass grave, and I used it too. I also said mass grave months ago, and this was the problem, is that like we all said mass grave because we truly thought of a mass grave because the media was saying mass grave. Like, we all thought what happened was like a genocidal killing. Like, they lined up a bunch of children in front of a pit and just mowed them all down and threw a bunch of dirt on top of them. That was the idea that I had when I was using the word mass grave. And this is why it was important to have that conversation and make the distinction. And it bugs me, and it really just like pisses me off listening to them act as though they got a gotcha on everybody when actually, like, this is the reason. Like, because yes, we were all fooled by it too. This is why this conversation is important, because the media has gone with the narrative or gone with the rhetoric and all use the same word, mass grave, or the same phrase, and now we were all fooled by it too. Even though we understand the distinction, we were all fooled by it too. And it, like, that part has really irked me.
Yeah, I forget where it was, but it was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't remember. But what I often found was when I was fighting with friends online on politics, because that's what I do for fun. Like, what would happen is we would be fighting over like them not even reading the article, and also with them using the titles as their ammunition without actually reading the article. So the way that I kind of like slam dunk them like over and over and over and over again is literally just taking their sources, and if it sounded fishy, literally reading the fucking source while we're fighting. Like that's seriously, that's like my primary way of my primary way of doing well in debates is literally just reading what the other side is saying and not trying to straw man it. And that's it's powerful. It's powerful when you have that kind of knowledge, because you don't have to rely on your bias. You don't have to rely on your previous preconceptions. You don't have to rely on what other people are saying. You can literally rely on what your opponent is saying. And that's an important thing that I think anybody who's interested in the Twitch politics space, that's something they need to consider. Literally don't research things that affirm your bias. Research the things that go against your bias, and then figure out how your perspective either changes or how it's bullshit.
Okay. And last question. So something like with the Canadians in my community that they seem to have a problem with is when it comes to this conversation, they feel as though people who are arguing the point about the churches are putting the value of the churches above the value of the kids. And that, like, as Lance explained in Lauren's video, he feels as though like the kids and the indigenous were a side note to the churches being burnt down. And like, do you think that this is a just way of going about it? And like, is the church burnings actually more important, or is it like because this is something that we can actually stop now, but we can't stop the indigenous from dying now, and so like this is the conversation that needs to be had first? Or like, where do you lie on this part of the conversation?
Yeah, they're right. So this is where my centrist credentials come out, right? I think when I was raised in the 1990s or whatever, we were all taught, or at least I was taught, to conceptualize everything as like personal ethic, right? Personal ethic, personal worth, personal this, personal that. Like you got to take your shit, you got to own it, right? You got to own it, you got to work it, you got to develop it. If shit sucks, you got to push past it, right? That's what I was taught. But there are advantages that I was giving as a kid. My parents were both middle class our entire lives. Since I was born, but when I was born, my dad was $200,000 in debt from a failed business, but he didn't make less than 200K for the rest of his life. Okay. So the way that I put it is we weren't rich enough to take ski lessons, but we were rich enough to rent the skis and then fall down the fucking hill. Okay. That's how, like we weren't rich, but we weren't poor either. Right. I went to really good schools. I went to French Lycée. My parents always put me in the best public schools when we had to go to public school. They paid for private school when they could afford it, right? These are all things that are not possible without intergenerational wealth. My grandparent, everybody in my family is like Irish, maybe a little bit of English, and maybe a little bit of Pennsylvania Dutch. So everybody was dirt fucking poor during the Great Depression. But they all served in World War II. They all got the GI Bill. When they got home, they got degrees. They became business people. They became owners of those businesses, and they passed down the wealth to their kids. And their kids were able to buy houses, and their kids were able to get white collar jobs, right? So my intelligence would not be possible. My education would not be possible without this intergenerational cycle. Turning back and explaining that Black Americans and Native Canadians don't have that. Their grandparents were sent to a shitty boarding school. Some of their grandparents' peers died from disease. When they got home to the reservation, they barely had fucking drinking water, let alone anything of material wealth or note. If they wanted to work, they had to move out of their communities. Like, this is all showing that if I'm the product of generational wealth, then these people didn't have the same opportunities and they might have been fucked over. And so that very real conversation becomes, these people are still fucked over now. How do we get them not fucked over within 2 to 3 generations? And that's an important conversation.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I do want to let you know my chat has been fighting over it, but I think they have come to the conclusion that they like you better with the beard. So
everybody does.
I've got one mod, Sassafras. She
good name.
She respectfully simps for you, as she says it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and she likes the no beard, but.
Well, no, Sassafras, I appreciate you. You're among the minority. Almost everybody else likes the beard, and they talk shit to me whenever I shave. I had to shave in order to get a new job, but the good news is I got the new job, which means that I'm financially independent enough now that I can invest in this channel, do well. And I am currently at, for everybody who's watching, give me 1 second. I'm currently at 9,940 subscribers. At 10,000, you mind if I do like my little shout out or outro?
Yeah, dude, we've been posting the link in the chat as well.
All right, perfect. So basically, once I hit 10K, I'm doing a dad bod hot tub live stream on Twitch with CTV. And then we're launching Twitch, we're launching Patreon, we're launching the website, and we'll try to do this as a part-time job until we get big enough to do full-time, if that's possible.
Sweet, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, you've been busy lately. You were growing really quickly, and that debate definitely made things blast off even more. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been fun. It's been interesting. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always enjoy talking to you, man, and I appreciate you coming on and hanging out.
All right, cool. Then I'll go answer my chat's questions, and then I'm probably going to call it a fucking night. But I do appreciate you, and I hope you have a great night. And Tom Foolery's chat, hi, thank you. Consider subscribing, and I wish you all an excellent evening.
Later, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, catch you.